Okay, whenever
Okay.
you're ready.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Um, you have such a fascinating life and story. I'm looking at the horse spurs and the Holocaust and um, your life. Can you tell me something about it? Like, where did you originally come from?
Well, I was born in Warsaw, Poland. Uh, we survived the war. My parents both survived. I was saved by a righteous Gentile family. The family was very interesting. Their name was Franskevich, and Mr. Franskevich was my father's foreman in my father's fur factory. Mrs. Franskevich was a homemaker, and then there was a daughter by the name of Helinka, or Helen in English. And they loved my parents to death. They would do anything for my parents. So my parents made a deal that time was right, they would get me out, and they would hide me. Now, remember, Hitler bombed Warsaw in 1939. We fled to Vilna, which at that time was part of Poland. It ultimately became part of Lithuania, and now it's called Vilnius. Okay. My parents thought they'd be safe because Hitler had not encroached that area yet. As time went on, Hitler did come into Vilna and became the Vilna Ghetto in 1941, officially. Okay. During that whole time, my grandparents were shot, put into a mass grave, so I never got to know my grandparents. My Aunt Felicia, my mother's younger sister, was walking in the street one day with her 9-month-old baby, and a Nazi came up to her and slapped her and put his hands where he shouldn't have, so she instinctively slapped him back. He pulled out his revolver, put a bullet in her head and a bullet in the baby's head, and they left them dead. So I never got a chance to meet them. My uncle was taken to Auschwitz and murdered in Auschwitz. Why did my parents go to Vilna? Not only because they thought to be safe, but my mother grew up there. My mother went to high school there, and my grandparents were there. Well, that ended very quickly. They tell me that the deal was that if one survives, they're going to return me. If they both survive, they're going to return me. If neither a parent or both did not survive, they would bring me up as their righteous Gentile boy. All right, they would bring me up as a Gentile and not Jewish. It would be I'd be going to church with them all the time. My parents agreed. As it turns out, my parents both did survive. So there were some harrowing times for me at the time, but at the time you have to really take into consideration my age. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know there was a war on. I did not know that there was a Nazi because they never used the word Nazi. They used the word bad guy. So those bad guys in those uniforms, they're the ones that are keeping you from your parents, and but we'll take care of you, don't worry. So now, where my memory really kicks in is I'm told that they took me and threw me over a barbed wire fence into the arms of the daughter, Helinka. I don't remember that. I do not remember that. What I remember is standing in this room with these strangers around me, crying and asking for my mommy and for my daddy. They kissed me on my forehead. They kissed me on my cheeks. They kissed me on my lips. They pressed so hard that my gums hurt. And then they put food in my mouth, and that calmed me down. But then they were hugging me always because so ultimately, I ended up calling Mr. Franskevich Papa, Mrs. Franskevich Mama, and Helinka, of course, Helinka. But that never took away from my parents and my love for my parents and wanting to see my parents. It's just that they were so warm and so friendly and so kind that as a kid, I ended up, instead of Mr. Franskevich, I ended up calling him Papa, okay? I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what a Nazi was. I knew what a bad guy was. I didn't know what a Nazi was. Let me explain the apartment to you. It was the four-story building, no elevator, walk up. We were on the third floor. It was what you would call in the United States like a railroad flat. It was one room after another, after another, after another. I had the last room. if you walked into the front door and you made a U-turn, there was a bathroom there. Okay? Bathroom comes into play in a few minutes. Now, I was just a kid. I didn't know what was going on except for the fact that I wasn't with my parents, and I couldn't. Don't worry, they'll be with you all. They'll be with you soon. So one particular day, I think you know about the final solution was to kill as many kids as possible. So they would send trucks around looking for Jewish children. So one particular day, we were all in the apartment, and the truck stops there. I don't know what's going on, but they told me, get under your bed, cross your arms, close your eyes, and no matter what happens, don't move. Don't breathe. Don't do anything. Okay. I hear footsteps. I hear chatter. Next thing I know, this blade comes through the mattress and just touches my chin. And I grab onto myself. Doesn't break skin, but just touches my chin, and the blade comes out. Now, if that Nazi wasn't lazy, and if you were looked under the bed, I wouldn't be here to tell you the story. We got lucky again, and that's why I consider myself very, very lucky because of incidences like that. One particular day it happened in church. They were taking me to church. This truck stopped out of church, and Helenka knew what was going on. She said, grab your stomach, make believe you cry if you can. Make believe you're sick. I did that. We walked out. Nazis walked in. Didn't even look at us. You want to talk about luck again. One particular day, my Mama and I were in the apartment. Helenka and Papa went to work for the Nazis to get coupons for food, you know. And she says to me, I'm going to go out and get some food. No matter what happens, don't open the door. Even if it's your father. Now, why would she even if it's your father? The ghetto was formed in 41. It was disbanded in 43. 95% of the people were murdered. She had no contact with them. I think as a young man, that's when I first learned or figured out something about women's intuition. All right? But why would she say even if it's your father? I never asked her, obviously. So I'm alone in the apartment. What am I going to do? I got bored. I didn't Nintendo, no iPad, no iPhone, no TV. I said, I know what I'm going to do. With this finger, I'm going to go to my window and I'm going to kill those bad guys that are keeping me from my parents. All of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. Now, remember I told you about the bathroom? Mm-hmm. If you ran to the bathroom and you stood on the toilet seat, you might hide at that time, there was a slotted window here. And guess what? It's my father. And I could see him, but he couldn't see me. He's with another man, and the other man reaches in his back pocket, takes out his handkerchief, wipes his brow, and I see a gun. I don't open the door. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know, but the first person to walk up the stairs, Mama from Scaries. She lets them in. I jump on my father. I said, where's Mommy? Why did you bring Mommy? Don't worry, she's fine. She'll be with us soon. Well, the story has a very sad ending. He apparently and his buddy, who they were buddies since they were 5 years old, they did everything together except sleep together. They were best men at each other's weddings. They would go on vacation together, the two couples, etc. They escaped from the ghetto 1 month before the Nazis disbanded and killed 95% of the Vilna ghetto. All right? And joined the partisan group. That particular time when he visited me, they left the next morning. They got to the edge of the forest where their encampment was, and my dad told me much later, he said the Nazi patrol came upon them. He started running with his buddy, and neck and neck, and then somehow his buddy got behind my father, and the bullets that were headed for my father killed his buddy. My dad said he looked back, couldn't do anything, took off, and my dad made it. Another luck for the Rishfelds. But by the way, this is an interesting piece of trivia. My name is not Rishfeld. It's spelled R-I-S-H-F-E-L-D here. But when we first came to the United States, our American family said, Rysechfeld. That's too European. Let's change it to Rishfeld, and that's how it was changed. But the Rishfeld name goes back to 1740, and everybody was a furrier except for two guys. Me,
So you mentioned that both of your parents survived.
yes.
When did your mother join you?
That's a very interesting story because my mother was saved because of her face. And this is a story for ladies, all right? In 1945, when the war ended, the Americans liberated most death camps. The Russians, who were our friends at the time, liberated death camps, but mostly ghettos. My mom, when they were going to disband the ghetto and kill everybody, they have the selection process, and a Nazi came up to her and said, "What can you do?" Because she had no wrinkles on her face. She said, "I can sew on any machine." They put her in another camp called Kailis, which was a textile factory making clothes for the Nazis. That's how she survived the war. But why no wrinkles?
Cucumbers.
You got it. All right, no wrinkles because of cucumbers, because her mother rubbed her face with a cucumber every morning, and when she passed away in her late 80s, she looked 50. That's what saved her. But the reuniting, she was 100% sure that my father was dead. So she's standing on this platform that the Russians put her on to go to the apartment in Warsaw where I am. And she sees this guy at the other end of the platform in an officer's uniform, highly polished boots, and looking good. And she looks over and she says, "Richard?" And he thought his wife was dead too. "Lucy?" And they run towards each other. And they grab on towards each other for about 10 seconds. My mother then steps back and holds off and smacks my father across the face. And he says, "So what's the matter with you? Have you gone nuts? Have you gone crazy?" And she says, "How dare you look so good? How dare you smell so good? How you be so clean?" And then she grabbed him and didn't let go. Well, 2.5 years living in a cave. There are no showers in caves.
Right.
What do you think he looked like? Okay. So he cleaned himself up, stole the officer's uniform, a Russian officer's uniform, and he was coming to get me thinking she's dead. That's how they reunited.
That's amazing.
And that's how the three of us reunited. Because then they both came to the apartment at the same time.
I didn't mean to jump in with the cucumber comment, but honestly, you inspired me to use cucumber on my face, so I had to say it. So how did you end up coming to the U.S.? Your family got here?
Well, the U.S., my father, when we spent 3 years in Belgium after we got out of this person's camp with my mother's best friend who found us there. But my father, she had a fur shop. He could have opened up his own fur shop, all right? But somehow I think my parents wanted to get as far away as possible because they were thinking of Australia. They were thinking of China. All right, they wanted to get away from Europe as much as they could. And the relatives here in the United States, my mother had an uncle that came here in 1926, and he said he would sponsor us and so on. And you're too young, you're too young to remember this, but at that time in 1940s and the early 50s, it was all this, "Come to America, money grows on trees, there's so many, and democracy, you'll be free, and you won't be afraid of what you have to say, and all that." So it was a big draw. And that's how we got here. And they sponsored us, and we came over on the SS Group's home, which was basically a luxury liner. I did not go through Ellis Island. Pier 49 on the west side, and we came out. My parents had, I think Dad told me he had like $100 in cash in his pocket. They got us an apartment in Murder Incorporated in Brooklyn for $25 a month. A 1-bedroom, no heat, no air conditioning. I slept on the fire escape during the summer, and I could put my hands on the wall, get enough condensation in the winter, and get some soap and wash my hands. So, and that's when I first went to school, was in Brooklyn, New York.
You mentioned when you came here, and you've been here since, right?
I've been here New Year's Eve of 1949, I was 10.
Have you noticed a lot of changes?
In the world or in New York? Or
in
the
the United States?
A heck of a lot of changes. Every decade there's a change. In the last decade that I've been around, every decade there's something that happens. I mean, you can go back to the Khrushchev banging his shoe on the United Nations at a table, we thought a Third World War. Reagan saying, Mr. Khrushchev, break down that wall, you know. Stuff like that. I mean, the Bail Pigs, Kennedy being shot, his brother being shot, Martin Luther King being shot. I mean, there's always something going on. And there's always, 9/11. I mean, there's so much going on that, and it seems like every decade, there's something that starts the decade off in a negative, but ends up in a positive. That's
what about now?
Now, it's a tough world because of the anti-Semitic situation that has risen out of control. And I'm not a politician. I don't want to go into politics or anything like that. But all I can say is that it's different from the last decade. All right, a lot has to do with who was in Washington, but it's different. It's different in a lot of ways. There's some ways. Look, we got those survivors back in Israel. All right, we're doing a lot of other things that are good, focusing on the good. All right, the bad is going to happen always. My whole goal in life is to lower anti-Semitic movement and to lower anti-Semitic feelings, because I can tell you for the last decades, the flame was down to here. Now the flame is way up here. You're never going to eradicate anti-Semitism. It's going to be on forever. And it's been on forever, for thousands of years. The only difference is, right now, the flame is too high. And we got to get it down where it's controllable. And unfortunately, this swing of anti-Semitism is not only about Jewish folks. It's about everybody. And that's the scary part, because it is about everybody. And people, I have my fingers crossed, people will eventually wake up and there'll be a change.
So you're an incredible advocate and you speak out. What would you recommend for other people who, just like you, want to be able to help lower the flames of anti-Semitism?
All right. Lowering the flame of anti-Semitism is not easy, but the main thing that you have to do is you have to talk to each other. People are not talking to each other, and people are not respecting the other person's belief or thought process. And I'll give you a very good example. I had dinner with some Muslims the other day at one of their apartments, okay? And the whole thing is talk to each other and talk about, and don't get mad because they have a different feeling. Don't tell them they're wrong. Explain to them why you feel the way you feel and educate them. And I think that a lot of what's going on with anti-Semitism is lack of education, because it's been proven at some of the universities. You know, I work with a lot of people, and some of the universities say these people come up with Zionism, they call it, or Zionism. Ask this guy, what is Zionism? Can you tell me? I couldn't answer the question. Right. What is happening in Israel? Oh, bad stuff. Well, tell me the bad stuff. It couldn't answer the question. The problem is that a lot of those demonstrators are stupid, if not all are stupid, because they don't know the background. And to call the Israelis genocide and all that, they don't know. They don't know, but it's okay for them to chop people's heads off, and it's okay for them to rape women, and it's okay for them to kill people, and it's okay for them to capture people, and while they capture them, to beat them. That's fine. All right. So what is your belief? What do you believe in? All right. What do you mean what anti-Semitic thing are you putting? What are you trying to prove? You know, blaming somebody else when you don't even know the facts. Learn the facts. And I also believe that it's a very big responsibility of the parents. It's what's happening at home. The talk at home is very important. Problem is, there's sometimes no talk.
Right.
All right? And the kids grow up not knowing, because the parents either are afraid to talk about it or they don't know themselves. So education is my whole thing. All right. And when I talk to sometimes at schools and churches, and I get a young group, I tell them, don't grow up stupid, because you're going to end up doing stupid things. Learn and investigate. And for example, research. There's so many, before, years ago, was the Britannica, right? You had the books. Mm-hmm. You had the big books and you had to go through the books. Now you press a couple of buttons and you get the answer. But then careful, because you also have to be able to realize that is this fake news or is this the real news? That you have to be very careful about. But talk to each other and honor each other and be nice to each other, and you're going to see a lot of good things happen. And the Proud Boys and all those guys that are creating a lot of this bad stuff and everything else, I would talk to them even. I mean, I talked to Ku Klux Klan guys. I've spoken to a lot of people. You've got to talk to them, all right? And the education is the most important part.
What about the ones screaming in the streets that attack people? How
That
do you talk
attack
to
people
them?
physically?
How do you
The
talk
ones
to them?
screaming on the streets that attack people physically should be put in jail.
I agree with you.
Should be put in jail. All right, you're as a private citizen, you have not the training, the strength, the knowledge of that kind of thing. You have to hurry up and get a cop or get police officers, whatever, to help you and put them in jail. All right.
So, going back to Europe during that time, was there any place in that whole region that ended up being safe, from what you know,
At that
for
time,
Jews?
or during the war, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't know of any place that was safe. I know that Switzerland harbored a lot of people. The Danish people harbored a lot of people. Even the French took a lot of kids and harbored them, and so on. So there was really not a safe spot, because Hitler, don't forget, was encroaching and controlling most of Europe. Now, the thing that also was mind-boggling to me, once I could intellectualize it, at that time, Germany had the most intelligent people in the world. Best doctors, best scientists, best officers, everything. How these people turned to be monsters is beyond me. Totally beyond me. Now, what's happening with Hamas and all of that stuff, these people are so indoctrinated and so poisoned. You have to get them when they're 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. You can't, once they're teenagers and older, they're gone. They're gone. You have to stop the books that say kill Israelis, kill Jews. You have to take those out of print in their schools. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a long while before that flame goes down a little bit.
Feels like an uphill battle.
And Martin Luther, 2,000 years ago, he's the guy that really was killed Jews, was big on killing Jews, So it goes back beyond, before Martin Luther even. So how are you going to eradicate this,
Yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle. Is there anything that you would want to share with someone who's indoctrinated? Any thoughts on how to sway their heart?
Well, all I can tell you is that you have to show them how we live. And you have to have there's a book out, The Son of Hamas, all right? And he, at the beginning, when the Secret Service got him as a teenager and brought him into an Israeli home, he walked in and he said, here's the people that I'm supposed to kill and hate, and they don't hate me. And I didn't realize how kind they were. I didn't realize how nice they were. I didn't realize how good they were. And slowly but surely, he started to think differently. If you haven't read the book, read the book, The Son of Hamas. And so that's all you can do. You cannot, you can't put the kid up against the wall and say, you will do this. You can't do that. You have to show them. It's like show and tell. All right, you have to show them. And that's the only way that it'll happen, one by one by one. My father, I asked my father once, I said, how did you survive? He said, hope and vodka. Well, they made their own vodka because they had the potatoes and the water, because real vodka is made out of potatoes, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so because I grew up on vodka. But at any rate, but hope is the big thing. Hope is the big thing. And I have hope for this country. And anybody that tells me this is a lousy country, I talk to them. This is not a lousy country. This is the greatest country in the world. And if you want to find out, travel.
So some people say that October 7th and the Holocaust should never be compared. What is your thoughts when it comes to that?
Well, to me, October 7th, it was a mini Holocaust because it was so confined in such a small area, and it was just and where it was done. But don't kid yourself, it was just like the Holocaust because the torturing of people, the chopping off of the heads. All right, maybe the Nazis didn't do that, but they did worse things than that. The experimental, Dr. Mengele is experimenting with girls, Eichmann, and what he created, and so on. So to me, it was definitely a mini Holocaust, and the way it was handled, I'm not going to tell you because I'm not a politician, and I don't think it's right for this particular time to discuss that.
Right.
But I got disgusted. My stomach turned. It brought back memories to the 40s. It brought back memories to that, that knife coming through the mattress, that everything of my uncle being shot, my grandfather being shot into a mass grave. All that came back. It was horrific. I mean, let's face it. The 2 years that they were able to do what they did, to me, I think should never have happened. And 2 years should not have been the time frame. But then again, I'm not a politician. I don't know all the ins and outs. So, okay.
Well, if you were a politician, you still might not know all the ins
Well,
and outs.
that's true too. That's true too. If I was.
I gave you this.
Oh, I have another one. Oh, with the
No, that's
Omicron type.
yours. That's the one I just took from your desk. And
Oh,
my
okay.
question to you is,
Okay.
when you look at that, does it give you any hope? Does it stir
Definitely.
any feelings?
It definitely gives me hope. First of all, the yarmulke is terrific and it's very cute, and the jewelry and everything. The hand, all right. I mean, I see everything, folks. This is terrific. Everybody should have one of these. We should have tens of thousands of these all over the place. All right, and that's why I keep it on my desk. All right.
Thank you. So, George, I noticed there was an article in the Jewish Times of Atlanta, the Atlanta Jewish Times, and in it there was a beautiful poem. Can you tell me anything about that poem?
My grandson, Max, who's 30 years old, is writing a book about my last 8 decades, and he wrote the poem. So we got it published at the Atlanta Jewish Times, and I think I'd like to end this video reading that poem. All right?
Please do.
It's called While the Birds Sing. What did the birds sing amid the Holocaust? What did they think as they looked down, always looking down? The chaos, the mayhem, the torture, the inhumanity, always looking down, always looking down. They saw the complete domination of love. Maybe they flew as far as they could. They saw that it wasn't enough. They saw the most disgusting stuff, the things you could never conceive, the things you'd beg not to be, the things you'd beg not to see, the things the birds had to see, perched above the trees, listening as they pleaded, hearing the war-torn screams. Maybe they sang louder, or maybe they were softer. Were they silenced by the genocide beneath them? What did the sky look like? And what about the clouds? Did they dance together, casting shadows in their wake? Were they entranced together, whilst under them hell reigned? Did the sun and the clouds look down upon them? And then it started to rain. Did each teardrop get lost in the sobs of God, raining while raining, yet watching above? To sure, the feeling of like God abandoned them. To others, it felt like God replaced them. Some feel like God never saw them. We all know it was hell. Hate doesn't just dissipate. Your words can't exonerate. You can't deny the cynic pattern of Jewish hate. You can't pretend we all know. This is just part of the Jewish tale. Genocide after, elimination after, persecution after, slavery after, enhancement ever since Genesis. The Jews will not reign. We will walk the roads that twist and wind. We'll look to the stars and embody their shine. We'll hold on to hope and never let it go. We know the strength of not working alone. We are the survivors of each and every tragedy, as constant and powerful as the pull of gravity. There's nothing they can do to make us go away. They will try and fail every time and will skew the scales. They'll just be creating another survivor tale. Still the birds sing and the world will turn, but the Jewish flame will continue to burn.
That's beautiful. Must be so proud.